I know I've seen you post a lot about you were a construction worker at one point, right?
Yes.
And that was it seemed like a pretty significant part of your life up to
Yeah.
this point. I just kind of want to know like that whole journey of what led you to construction and like how you went from that to what you're doing now, because I feel like they're not even closely related.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
want to just know that whole story.
Yeah, that it was completely unplanned. So construction was never in like the books for me. Like I never even thought of doing that. I was not like a handy person growing up. And I went to college and I was trying to figure out what path I wanted to take. And I always was geared towards becoming a first responder. That was like my passion. Like I always wanted to serve people, help people. But with any of those jobs, city jobs, government jobs, they take time to get hired. It's hot. You got to wait for a test or them to get to your list number once you take the test, etc. So it takes a couple years. So I knew graduating college that was what I wanted to do, and I was like, well, what am I going to do in the meantime? I had a job at GNC at the time, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I need like an actual income.
What was your degree you got in college?
Criminology and psychology.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I love that stuff.
So it was like to be a cop later down the road, or a police officer?
Yeah, that I mean, that was like options. I was looking at all different aspects of just a first responder, and I was taking numerous tests and everything, and
Nice.
seeing what path I wanted to take. So in the meantime, I was like, what do I like? I had like, I would say a couple months left of college and trying to figure out like what was after. And I knew somebody who had a connection for me to get into the union. So I knew nothing. I didn't even know what I was going to be doing. And they were like, all right, you're going to show up in Manhattan it was the day after I graduated. I got to show up to a job site and bring this, and this tools I've never used before. So the trade that I was going into the cement masons union. So what the cement masons do is like, you ever see like, I mean, they could do anything from sidewalks and driveways, like pour those and make them look pretty,
Mm-hmm.
or you do residential, commercial, high rises and buildings, like
Okay.
the floors. So we put the floors in each level that the building's going up. I had no idea of that. No idea how to do it either.
That's wild.
So I graduate college. Everybody's going out and partying like the night of, like to celebrate, and I'm like going to bed early because I had to be up the next day. And I showed up on the first day, and the reason I say it was so significant is because like you get thrown in with the wolves, like, and you learn real quick, like it's either you work or you're going home. And I learned so much. It turned me from like a boy to a man real quick, like, because the construction workers, they don't get enough credit. They are some of the toughest, like hardest workers I've ever seen. Like they don't complain weather, no matter what the weather is. It's hot, it's cold. They're working all day, all hours, like physical labor, like nonstop. And it's not, and you can't hide. Like because there's always a foreman who's like the boss, and he's always standing there and watching. Like, and if you slack off, it's not like a secure job in the sense where like you like could mess up and just get by. Like they hand you your check and they say, all right, go home. Like don't come back
Jeez.
tomorrow. So it was like me coming out of college. I'm just a stupid young kid, 21 years old. Like I never had it. I worked at GNC. Like I never had a job like this before. And like, that was just me, like, especially a trade that I didn't know. So they treated me like a laborer. I was doing all like the grunt work for them, carrying buckets of concrete and
Oh
and
my
just
gosh.
all, yeah, I was working my ass off, and they were working me hard. And you had to kind of earn your way, otherwise they would send you home. But I will say they saw my work ethic, and that I always, I learned if you're not early, you're late. So there's no, you start at 7 a.m., you're getting there 6:30, or they're handing you a check, you're going home. If they need you to stay late that day, you're staying late. Like there's no, I got something to do after this. Otherwise they're
Jeez.
like, oh, all right, there's 20 other guys waiting who would love this work. Like, and they'll stay late every single day. So you know what I mean? It's
Right.
competitive like that. So I did what I had to do. I took the grunt work. I did anything they asked. And after that, I made connections with like, because it's a very much type of who you know networking like union where it's like I worked with this guy once. He liked the way I work. I could call him if I'm looking for work, and he'll be like, "Oh, this kid's good. Bring him on." So like, I made connections with some good guys. Learned a lot from them. I always asked questions. I was always open to critique, which is very important. Like learned a trade that I never even knew had nothing to do, and I learned it, decently.
Right.
And I from there had good connections and like was able to keep myself working for my period of time.
How long did you do it for?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What did like a day in the life look like going to do that? Dude, 4 years of that sounds grueling.
My body was beat. I'm still like my show, because like each trade has their, and anyone who works construction or any type of like physical labor job, they know each trade has their injury. So like cement masons, it's like a lot of smoothing out concrete. So my shoulders, my rotator cuffs are getting run down, and you'll be on your knees a lot. So your knees, like, so you feel that, like I've started to feel it. You're walking, and then like when you're pouring concrete, you're walking on rebar. You know what rebar is? Right. So you're walking on rebar. So like your hips are getting messed up, and like it's like quicksand as the concrete starts to dry. Yeah. So it takes a toll on your body. But a day would be, usually I'd have to be like the hours would normally be 7 to 3. I was working all over the city, so I'd have to plan the night before if I'm taking public transportation, or if I'm driving in, I'd have to scope out the area I'm going if I'm going to drive in. So I have to find parking, because there's no parking in New York City anywhere.
Did you grow up in New York City?
I did.
Okay, we'll get into that later. Yeah. I want to know about that too.
Yeah. So it was wake up usually 4:30 in the morning. If I can have time to eat quick, like leave the house, get to the job site like half hour early. They'll let me know what my job is that day, what we're doing. And then basically like you get right to it. 7 o'clock starts, you're there, you're starting working till we'd have coffee break at like 9 o'clock, 15 minutes, right back to work, lunch at like 11 or 12, I don't remember what it was. And you're done if unless there's like another job to do, but generally you're done at 3 or 3:30, and I'd hop on the bus, drive home, and I'd go straight from there to the gym. I would do this. I think about it now, and I'm like, oh my God, I was doing that. Like, but yeah, I was working out, go home, eat, right to sleep, and then all over 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days if they work Saturday. Yeah, it was definitely tough. Like I learned work ethic from there a lot, and it showed, because like I said, in 4 years, I wasn't laid off because of just like the only time I got like laid off was when the job ended, which is normal. That happens. Or if it's like winter, in the deep part of winter, like work slows down. But I was never laid off because of my performance. And like the person who would help me find work was telling me, I have guys who've been in this union for 30 years that I'm not calling, and I'm calling you because you show you care. And like, that means a lot. Like that he's not calling guys at home because they're laid off looking for work. They've been in the union for 30 years. Me, I'm in 2-3 years at the time, and he's calling me over them because I showed that I could work hard, and means a lot. So that stuck with me in every aspect of my life. Like hard work pays off.